David Cranfield, CFO of Professional Collision Equipment and Certified Profit First Professional. This is part 3 of a series that I'm doing of how to navigate the crisis trend that we're on right now. And we want to get to stage 3 as quickly as possible. That's the stage we're in. And so there's 3 data points I want to share with you that you need to be measuring in order to move on to a strategic and deliberate action, which is stage 4. So the data points you need to pay attention to first and foremost is the expense buckets. We need to manage our expenses right now. So there are 4 main buckets that I like to break any business's expenses down to. We're talking about a cash flow standpoint, not necessarily an accrual or a profit and loss type statement. This little exercise is strictly on what's flowing out of our business cash-wise. The biggest expense is payroll. Anything related to payroll, expenses, health, cost, anything like that, you want to roll up into the payroll bucket. You want to take a measurement of your overhead. I like to break that down a little bit finer just because there are more categories that go there, but I want to look at my facility, anything that relates facility expense-wise. If I didn't have that facility, would I have that expense is the question. Loans and leases, again, from a cash flow standpoint, not an accounting or bookkeeping standpoint. I want to know how much cash is coming out in terms of loans and leases. I'm going to take any insurance expenses so that I can manage those separately. Even though they may relate to a facility, I'm going to put those under this. Although the payroll type related insurance expenses, I do want to put under payroll. And then I'm going to look at marketing as a bucket. And finally, reoccurring subscriptions. Those are things that are coming out of my bank account that maybe are low benefit, and I can look at it cutting. Obviously not things like your estimating system or software subscriptions, but you've just got to look at what is a reoccurring subscription type expense, and I like to categorize those in their own bucket. The other is variable expenses. Those are things that are related to sales, so the more active and more productive your shop is in terms of work through the cycle of pulling cars through and repairing them, the more those expenses go up. So that can be like other vehicles that you have that you use to porter or to transport other vehicles to, say, a mechanic shop, that kind of thing. So the fuel related to those expenses, anything like that. For a lot of body shops, you may not even need this category. Those type of expenses may fit into overhead here, but some shops have more of those type of variable expenses, so sometimes I leave room for that category. And then owner's comp. Owner's comp is your compensation. You need to break that out separate from payroll. There's a reason for that, but you want to know anything that you're taking out of the business personally. So if there's any additional expenses that the business is bearing right now and doesn't have to, that's related to you, let's categorize those and keep track of those so you can make informed decisions about those expenses. You do want to be healthy as an owner financially, so you may have to do this exercise personally as well. If I break this into a spreadsheet, this is what it's going to look like. I'm going to put my buckets across the top, and then I'm going to total up everything related to that bucket, cash flow wise, on a monthly basis is the way I'll do this. Then I want to know what portion of this bucket is to my overall total expenses. And so I'm going to figure out that percentage in this column right here. And then finally, and this to me is the most valuable part of this exercise, is I want to know what the impact of this bucket is in terms of sales. In other words, how much do I have to sell to justify this bucket? And so just to show you real quick, if I had $100,000 in payroll expenses and my overall gross profit margin was 40%, I'm going to divide that by 0.4. And that tells me that I've got to generate $250,000 in sales, a minimum per month, to justify my payroll if my payroll expense is $100,000 per month. I'm going to do that for each one of my categories and then total them up down here so that I know overall what the minimum, this is kind of a break-even calculation of what I need to generate to cover each of those buckets. And then between these percentages and these sales dollars, it's going to tune you into what you really need to attack and pay attention to. More than likely, your payroll is your largest expense, and you definitely need to take a look at that. Moving on to the other data points, there's 2 other data points that you need to pay attention to. The other big data point outside of your expenses is just understanding your gross profit margin. Profitability is more important than sales right now. So having a handle on not only your overall profit margin, but also each category of labor, parts, and material. You need to really be tuned into those things right now and trying to find ways to increase that profit margin in all of those categories. The last thing is just capacity. It is the measurement of, and I would take it first, if you don't have this already as a KPI for your business, you need to take at least what the hours are based on the number of technicians you have. And it's just a simple calculation of 40 hours per each head count you have in terms of technician. And you separate that out by body and paint department. And your body's going to probably determine your overall capacity for your shop. But knowing how many hours you need to put through your shop to reach capacity will tell you where you're at capacity-wise. And that's just a good KPI number to know in general. But when you're in a crisis situation, definitely you want to know if you've fallen below that and what you need to make up there. So those are the three main data points for a body shop that you need to have a handle on and develop a strategy around how to navigate and take your next moves to move yourself out of a crisis. I'm David Cranfield again, CFO, Professional Collision Equipment. There's our website. We're here to help our customers navigate not only this crisis, but how best to serve their customers with peace of mind and reliability and the reputation of OEM certified equipment that they use to repair their customers' vehicles.